Okay, so welcome back everyone to the channel and to the NeetCode 150 series. So far in the arrays and hashing section, I've done 3 problems, all of the easy ones. And I could go on to the mediums and complete this category, but I think what I'm gonna do, since I'm quite out of practice, is go through all the easy questions in all of the categories, and then go back and do all the mediums, and then all the hards. So I think I'll put the arrays and hashing section on hold and move down to 2 pointers, which looks like 1 easy problem. So won't be in the section for long, but I'll go ahead and do Valid Palindrome. I think that's a good place to go next. Perfect. Make sure this is Python. All right, wonderful. So this problem says a phrase is a palindrome if, after converting all uppercase letters into lowercase letters and removing all non-alphanumeric characters, it reads the same forwards and backwards. Alphanumeric characters include letters and numbers. So given a string S, return true if it is a palindrome or false otherwise. Okay. So if we're given this input, a man, a plan, a canal, Panama, this is a palindrome, because if we read it backwards, this says a man, a plan, a canal, Panama. And notice we ignored anything that was non-alphanumeric. So we ignored the commas, the spaces, the colon. Okay. And we ignored the casing. Got it. All right. Race a car is not a palindrome because backwards it says rack e-car. So not quite a palindrome. And it looks like they consider an empty string a palindrome in this case, because if you remove the space, it's just an empty string, and that's the same forwards and backwards. Great. Okay, so let's pop down to the whiteboard and have a look at this problem. So I remember working with palindromes back when I was doing data structures, and what I remember is that if you had some sort of string, let's say a race car, because race car backwards is race car. So this is a palindrome. And the way I would check for this that I remember is I would have 2 pointers, which I think is the name of this category, so that's a good sign. And you would put 1 pointer at the start of the word, and you would put 1 pointer at the end of the word. And the first thing you would do is say, is the value that these pointers are each pointing to the same? So basically, does R equal R? It does, so we know we're good so far. And then we can move each of these pointers into the next value. In this case, they're both A's, and we would ask ourselves, does A equal A? It does, so we're still good. So we would take the pointers and move them again, like that. And we would say, does C equal C? It does. And then finally, we would move each of the pointers once more, like this. And we would say the pointers are equal. And if the pointers are equal, we know that we have reached the end of the word that we're on. So pointers are equal. Must be a palindrome. So that's how I remember how to do this. And in the case where the case where it's an even, the amount of letters are even, when you get to the end here, your pointers are here, and E equals E. And then after this, you have to move them again, right? So you move them so that one is here and one is here. So they actually switched, right? So like they got here and then you move them each over one. And so now they've switched. And in this case, you can do something like if the position of pointer 1 is greater than the position of pointer 2. You can return true that it's a palindrome because you know that they've crossed paths. Okay, so I think we have that technique mostly figured out of the 2 pointers. But now the interesting part is I need to think about how to handle the non-alphanumeric characters. So I think what we can do is use a bit of a loop. So for instance, if our string was race car, but with a colon here, this should still return true because the instruction said that we want to ignore non-alphanumeric characters. So we should ignore the colon. So I think how we could do this with pointers is we would start with the R's, those would work. We'd move into A, those would be the same. But then when we move to the C here, on this side, we would want to make sure that we don't stop moving the pointer until we get to a alphanumeric character. So what I mean by that is we move to the pointer on this side, so we'd move the pointer on this side as well, but we see that it's non-alphanumeric, so we move it again. So now it would be here, and now this is an alphanumeric character, so we stop, and now we compare C to C, and those work, so then we move both of our pointers again to right here, and they're at the same spot, so we can stop. So hopefully that makes sense. That's my plan. So let's see if we can get this to work. So yeah, I think what we want to do first is set up our pointers, right? So we know that we want P1 to be 0 every time. So we start at the beginning of the string. And then we know we want P2 to be the last character in the string. So we can say length of S -1. And then I'm going to loop while true. And this looks scary for infinite loop reasons, but I think this is the best technique because I don't know how long I'm going to need to loop for. Basically, I need to loop until the pointers meet, which means we've processed everything, or I need to loop until we find that the values at the pointers are not equal, which means it's not a palindrome. So what we can check first is, well, first we want to loop until the values that the pointers point to are alphanumeric. So we can say while not s at p1 dot is, I think you check is alphanumeric in Python like that, but I might need to come back to this. So basically, while the value that p1 points to is not alphanumeric, we want to increment p1. And then same thing for the second pointer. except this time we want to say p2 minus 1. Right. Then we can check if the pointers have met each other or not. So if so I could say if p1 is equal to p2 or p2 is greater than, oh, we can combine this all into one. If p2 is greater than or equal to p1, we can return true. Excellent. So what next? I guess now we want to check if what the pointers point to are equal. We've moved them to the right spot. Now we need to check if the characters that the pointers point to are equal. So if they're not equal, we can return false because we found a case where it's definitely not a palindrome. Otherwise, we just increment the pointers like that. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm not sure about my is alnum. Yeah, I was worried about this. String index out of range. I think that means we should check this first, perhaps, so that we don't accidentally go over the end of our string, which I think is what might be happening. So let's run that one more time. Okay, we passed case 1 and 3, but we did not pass this one. Could it be because I need to check this again down here? This is a little bit messy, but let me just... No, okay, that's not it. So we check if pointer 2 has gotten there. Oh, I wonder if is alnum works with spaces. Oh, it must, because it got this one right. Oh, that's quite interesting that I got case 1 right, but not case true. So I outputted that this is a palindrome, but it's not. Huh. So if they're greater, return true. While this is not true, we increment p1. While this is not true, we increment p2. If these are not equal, we should return false. So what should happen is the r's start out. This doesn't happen, so we increment them both. Now they're at a and a. None of this happens, so we check. Then they're at c and c. All this goes through, increment them. Now we're on E and space. Nothing should happen with the E, but the one with the space should move 1. And then we should check them, and they should be false. Oh my goodness. Surely that's the problem. I had those switched. Of course, P2 is always greater than or equal to P1. I think I had that. I think I had that backwards. Yeah, so that fixed case 2 and 3, but now case 1 is returning false. Oh, because I haven't handled the lowercase thing. Oh wait, no, not there. I think I can just handle that like this. Is that right? Woohoo! Okay. Wow, everyone, this one caused me a great deal of trouble. Let's go ahead and submit that and see if it's correct. It is not. We got an index out of range here. So we could say or P1 is less than 0 or, sorry, P2 is less than 0 or P1 is greater than the length of this minus 1. So I think I might be missing some edge cases where the pointers have crossed each other and gone off the ends of the string in either direction. So I just added a check for that there. So let me run the test cases again. Let me try submitting one more time. Right, so now I think I'm missing a case where the string starts or ends with a whole bunch of non-alphanumerics. So basically and this. And same thing for this one. And then I need to check this. I need to check this again. Ah, so wait. I think I just built all those checks into one. So we can just move this down. And let's try that. And now I need to reverse them, I think. So we want to check that I haven't gone out of bounds first, before I check the value of the string. And can I make this bigger? Great. And same thing for this first one. So that works, and I think I can take a try submitting this one. Okay. So sorry everybody, that one was brutal. But I did okay with runtime. I probably could have moved around some of those if statements and while loops to make it a little bit better. But not too terrible. And I did really well with memory. I beat 92% of other solutions, so that's great. Thanks for sticking around. That was a bit of a longer one. But happy I got to the solution without needing to use Stack Overflow. That's always the goal, right? So thanks again for watching, and we will go through the next one in the next episode. Thanks, everybody.